girls. Alright guys, so today remember all we're going to do is we're going to review our last two lessons, lesson 17 and lesson 18. So before we get started, today's Thursday, so just make sure you do complete your do now for today. Go ahead and press pause on the video, time yourself, and then once you're done, you press play and we will go over our do nows for the week, and we will also go over lesson 17 and lesson 18. So you may go ahead and start your do now. Alright, so now that you started your do now, or that you're done, with your do now, we're going to go ahead and go back to our Tuesdays, and Ms. Rodriguez is going to briefly just work on them. And this is the time that you may check your work to see how you did on your do now for week 3. So I'm going to go ahead and make this screen bigger so you are able to see. Okay, so we're going to start with Tuesdays. Remember, we don't review Mondays just because next Monday we're going to have the exact same do now. And that's just only to help us with our multiplication facts. So for Tuesday, remember, when we have the operations like this, we always do multiplication and then we add. So 6 times 2 gives us 12, plus 4, the answer was 16. For the one on the bottom, we divide first. So 8 divided by 2 gives us 4. Then 10 minus 4 gives us 6. Here we have 4 eighths plus 1 half. Remember, we always want our denominator to be the same. So in order to make this an 8, we should multiply this by 4. And what we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So pretty much 4 eighths plus 4 eighths is going to give us a whole. So it's going to be 1. The answer for this one was 1. Here we have write this number in standard form. So if we write this number in standard form, we do 20 plus 5, which is 25 point. And then this will stay in the hundredths place. So it's still going to be 25.09. If 3 people share 3/4 of a pound of carrots equally, how much will each person eat? So remember, we're going to divide the 3/4 into how many people? 3. So you should have done 3/4 divided by 3. And remember, when we divide, we use keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep 3/4. We're going to switch the the division to multiply. And then we add a 1 to our 3 to make it a fraction. And then now we flip it. And we're going to multiply. 3 times 1 gives us 3. 4 times 3 gives you 12. If you simplify this, it gives us 1/4. So here the answer was 1/4. If you go on to Wednesday, write an expression for the statement, divide 6 by 3, then add 8. So we would divide first, 6 divided by 3, and then we add 8. That is what you should have gotten. Here, Sarah ate 1/4 of a salad and Johnny ate half of the salad. What fraction of the salad is left? So for this one, I'm actually going to do a drawing. And we know that half is the same as 2/4. And this is already fourths. So we're gonna use the same denominator. So I'm going to cut this into 4. And Sarah ate, let me go ahead and label all these. Sarah ate 1/4. And then Johnny ate 2/4. So 1, 2. So what fraction of the salad is left? 1/4. So here the answer was 1/4. Next we have round each number to the nearest whole. Remember, the nearest whole. So here this number goes over 5. So remember, we go to the next number, which would be 33. And for this one, we're going to look at the 7. Remember, if it goes over 5, it means we go on to the 7. So our next whole would be 5. Here, we need to use our reference sheet. So we know that 1 foot equals 12 inches, right? So if we have 12 feet, how many inches is that? We would have to multiply 12 times 12, and it gives us 144. And for the bottom one, 3 equals 1 yard. So, yards there, or 1 yard. So 30, it means we would have to divide. 36 divided by 3 gives us what? 12. So it would be 12 yards. And then today's do now, the one that you just did, was this one. So remember, the top, it tells us what the rule is. So here we have to subtract 5. So 10 minus 5 gives us 5. 9 minus 5, 4. 8 minus 5, 3. 7 minus 5, 2. Here we're going to add 3. So 4 plus 3, 7. 5 plus 3, 8. 6 plus 3, 9. 7 plus 3, 10. Now we're just going to go ahead and do our numbers here. 9 and 4, 8 and 3, 7 and 2. 4, 7, 5, 8, 6, 9, 7, 10. And we can already go ahead and label our work here, or graph our ordered pairs. So we're going to begin first. I'm going to go ahead and write all my numbers in my graph. If you didn't do this, you can do this now. I know this just makes it a lot easier to graph. So we start with 10 and 5. Remember, we always start with x, so 10 and 5 right here. Then we have 9 and 4, 8 and 3, 7 and 2. Our next one is 4 and 7, 5 and 8, 6 and 9, 7 and 10. So your ordered pairs should have looked like that on your graph. So that was our do now for week 3, boys and girls. Alright, now guys, go ahead and take out your problem set for lesson 17, which is what we worked on Monday. And Ms. Rodriguez is actually going to work on it with you right now. And that way you're able to look at your work, see if you made any mistakes. I know I was able to provide feedback to a lot of the students, but if you for some reason didn't receive feedback on your work, this is a great time for you to look at your work and see if you got these problems correct or if there's anything that you need to fix. So we're going to begin with problem number 1 for lesson 17, problem set. So it says, draw to create a figure that is symmetric about segment AD. So we want to make something that is symmetric to A and D. Remember, this is our line of symmetry. So I am going to see first, if this is my line of symmetry, I know that A is already there for me. So now what I need to do is I need to find B. So I'm going to measure from the line of symmetry with my ruler all the way to B. And I can see it is about an inch and almost an inch and a quarter. So an inch and 1/4, a little bit less. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing to this side. I'm going to start at my line of symmetry. And it's about right here. That would be my B on that side. Now I'm going to do the same thing for C. It's also a little bit shy off 1/4. So I'm going to measure with my ruler. And a little bit right here. Oops. If I actually look at it like that straight, it needs to be, Ms. Rodriguez made a mistake. Let me erase it and fix it. To make sure it's also aligned sideways. So like about right there. Okay, let me make sure B is straight. I think I'm a little bit off too, so let me just fix it really quick. I need to make sure it's aligned, but it's also aligned sideways. like right there. That way it's straight. Okay, there. So now that we did our 2 points, now I'm gonna go ahead and connect them. Plot them. And your work should look like this. If we see both of them are symmetric, it means it's like a mirror image. They are exactly the same. We pretty much flipped this shape to this side, but it is the exact same thing. So it is a symmetric figure to segment AD. So that was number 1. Now we're going to go ahead and go to number 2. It says draw precisely to create a figure that is symmetric about HI. So look at the segment HI. Whatever we draw on this side needs to be the same, boys and girls. It has to be the same. And I know this one's a little bit hard, a little bit tricky. But we are going to work together and you're going to be able to see how Ms. Rodriguez did. Alright, so remember what we learned during our lesson. Here, our line of symmetry for number 1, we can see that it's vertical. It's going up and down. This one makes it a little bit harder because this, our line of symmetry is not vertically and it's not horizontal. It's in a diagonal. But even though it's in a diagonal, you're still able to draw. You can still be able to draw it. So what we're going to do is, again, I'm going to focus first on J. Why? Because it's the highest point out of all of these. And I need to know the distance from there to the line of symmetry. So I'm going to place my ruler right there. And I can see that if I measure this on my ruler, it's right there. That's the distance from J to the line of symmetry. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to move my ruler this way. And I am going to see from the line of symmetry to here. Let me make sure I am right in the line. Right there. There. It's going to be right here. And I actually even went over the letters. But it's okay. So that's J. H, it's on the line. So that's not one that I need to find. Now I'm going to go to K. I'm going to find the distance of K. And I'm going to take that out my ruler. Let's see. If I measure the distance from K to the line of symmetry, it is right here. Now that I do that, I'm going to move my ruler sideways. And I can see it is right about there. Okay. Now I'm going to do L. L is very tiny. It's like 1/2. It's about half. So I'm going to just move it, and I know that it's going to be right here. And then I do not need to do I. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to connect my points. It goes like that. Then I always go in line. I go like that. Let me move this a little bit, just because I think I made it a little bit to the side. I need to make sure it's aligned right with L. So like about right there. There it is. And then I connect my last points. And that is how you make your symmetric figure. That is what it's supposed to look like. All right. Now we're going to move on to problem number 3. All right. In problem number 3, guys, It says complete the following construction in the space below. So remember here I always told you to follow, make sure you follow each point. So it says plot 3 non-collinear points. Remember, non-collinear means they're not going to be in the same line. D, E, and F. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do D right here. I'm going to do E right here. And then I'm going to do F right here. So I did D, E, F. Then it says, I'm going to do a little check because I already did that. Then it says draw DE. So I'm going to draw DE, EF, a little bit off. Sorry guys. There, EF. And then it's asking me to draw DF. So now I'm going to draw DF. Alright, so I already did B. Then C says plot point G. We don't have a G, we need to plot it. Draw the remaining sides such that quadrilateral, so whatever we form needs to be a quadrilateral, D, E, F, G is going to be symmetric about DF. So that means if it's going to be symmetric about DF, what do you think DF means? This right here is our line of symmetry. Let's do L. So we know that is our line of symmetry. So whatever we plot on this side is going to be G, and it has to be symmetrical to D and F. So where do you think I would draw G? On mine, I would draw G. If it has to be symmetric, the only point that is off the line of symmetry is E. So that means that's the point that I'm going to follow. If I start at 0, I'm going to measure. I'm going to be using the centimeter sign. It's about right here. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to move it this way and measure to the 0. And it would look something like this. Now I'm going to connect my points. And if you look at the figure, then this side is symmetrical to this side. It's the same thing. The figure is symmetric to DF. So that is what 3 would look like. Now, keep in mind, for this problem, guys, this is how I plotted my points. Maybe you plotted them differently, but just make sure that, again, they gotta be symmetrical to D and F. Now we're going to move on to number 4. So for number 4, guys, it says, Stu says that quadrilateral HIJK is symmetric about HJ, which is our diagonal line, because IL equals LK. This means this equals to this. It says, use your tools to determine Stu's mistake. Explain your thinking. So we already know that she is wrong. Again, this one will vary. Everyone is going to have a different response. But I'm just going to explain briefly how we are able to know an easy way for you to see why it's not symmetrical. So yes, maybe from the line of symmetry, this is the same and this is the same. But remember, everything needs to be the same. If I fold this, this side is not going to look like this side. And when a shape is symmetrical, if I fold it, it should be the exact same shape. So example, I'm going to measure the distance from J to K. If I use my ruler to measure, it's a little bit more than 1. Right here. I'm going to mark my ruler so you're able to see it. So you see that I marked my ruler. Now, this right here, I'm going to measure J and I. In order for it to be symmetric, it's got to be the same. And as you can see, look where our point is for I. So this was K, this was I. Just by measuring this, are we able to know that Sue is wrong? Yes, because it's not symmetric. They're not the same size. If they would be the exact same length, then it would be symmetric. And if this and this would be the exact same length, the shape would be symmetric. But because these are not the same, and we can also tell that these are the same, that is why it is not symmetric. So very was a little bit tricky. So now let's go ahead and take out lesson 18 so that we can go over the problem set. Alright, so now we're going to begin and we're going to do lesson number 18. So let's review our work together. So it says, draw a line T whose rule is Y is always 0.7. So let's always follow the rule. So it's already giving us a rule. Y is always 0.7. Before I start our first key point, which is drawing our line of symmetry, I'm going to make sure all my graph is labeled, especially this one because look, it's not even whole numbers. So we're going to do 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Go ahead and do this. If you didn't do it, Ms. Rodriguez is going to do it in both sides. This just makes it, I'm sorry, a lot easier for me when I'm plotting down my points. Okay, so now that I did that, I know this is my X, this is my Y. So table A is already given to us, but before we begin, remember, Y is always 0.7. So if my rule starts with Y, am I going to look at X or am I going to look at Y? I'm going to look at my Y, and it is always 0.7. So 0.7 is right here, so this is where I'm going to draw my line of symmetry. I already know. That's what I'm going to focus, and it says draw a line T. This is going to be T. Then it says, so I already did A, I'm going to do a little check. Plot the points from table A on the grid in order. Then draw line segments to connect the points. So we're going to plot these guys. 0.1 is my X, my Y is 0.5, right here. This is A. Or not necessarily A because there's no letter. The next one is 0.2. We can also do checks just so that we don't get confused. 0.2, 0.3, 0.3, 0.5, 0.5, 0.1, 0.6, 0.2. I think I'm going to connect these already because then I'm going to get mixed up. So I started here, 0.1, 0.5, then I went down. So I'm going to make sure I'm connecting them because I do not want to get mixed up. Okay, then I did this one already, 0.8, 0.2, right here. Connect, 0.9, 0.1, 1.1, 0.5, 1.2, 0.3, right here. And then I have 1.3 and 0.5 right there. So this is what your A should have looked like, table A. So we already did B. Now for C it says, complete the drawing to create a figure that is symmetric about line T. So if this is line T, whatever is up here needs to be symmetric. So remember, all we do is we just start with the dot. So for example, this one. If this is our line of symmetry, it is how many units down? 1, 2. So we're going to do the same thing up. 1, 2. This is our first one. And we're going to plot it. So it is 0.1, 0.9. Our next one, it is 1, 2, 3, 4 units down. So now we're going to go 4 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here. Let's connect. And now let's write it. 0.2 and 1.1. Then we have our next one, 2 units down, so we're going to do 2 units up. Right here, connect, and this is going to be 0.3, 0.9. 0.3, 0.9. Our next one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So we're going to do 6 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right here. Connect. And we read our number. It is 0.5, 1.3. 0.5, 1.3. Our next one is here, so we have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So now go up 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. Connect. This is 0.6, 1.2. 0.6, 1.2. Then our next one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units down. So now we go up 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should have had this. You connect. This is 0.8, 1.2. 0.8, 1.2. Our next one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So we go up 6 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And connect. This is going to be 0.9, 1.3. 0.9, 1.3. Then we look at our next plot, which is 2 units down. So we go up 2 units. 1, 2. And we connect. This is 1.1, 0.9. 1.1, 0.9. Then our next one is 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So it's going to be 4 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4. We connect. This right here is 1.2 and 1.1. 1.2, 1.1. And then we have our last one, 2 units down. So we go 2 units up. And we draw our line. This one here is 1.3 and 0.9. 1.3, 0.9. If I went too fast, go ahead and press pause while you check your work just to make sure that all of your points are plotted correctly. All right, so now we're done with C. We're going to move on to D. So these answers are going to vary. So I won't actually write anything down, but I will talk about it. So for example, D, it says compare the y coordinates. So all we're going to look at, guys, are the y coordinates in table A and in table B. So only look at your y's. What do you notice? So what are some of the things you guys noticed? For example, if you look at y in A, the first one says 0.5. You have another one that says 0.5, and you have another one that says 0.5, and another one that says 0.5. So all the y's that say 0.5, if you look at y's over here, all of those for the y here say 0.9. They're all the same. All the ones 0.5 have 0.9. 0.5, 0.9. Now look at the one that says 0.3. You have one here and you have one here. And both y's are what? 1.1, 1.1. You have 0.1, 0.1. If you look at the y's there, the y's are 1.3, 1.3. So we're definitely able to see a connection there of how they are symmetric. Now, if you look at E now, compare the x coordinates. So now we're going to look at the x. And what do you notice about those? Look at your x. I think we all notice the same thing for this one. This one, for the y, was a little bit different because there was different things you could notice. But for x, definitely, we are able to notice that the x coordinates in both tables are the same. So for that one, I could write because that is a connection that I think everybody should have seen. The x coordinates for both table A and B are the same. They did not change. Now, we're going to move on to number 2. It says, this figure has a second line of symmetry. Draw the line on the plane and write the rule for this line. So think about this, boys and girls. Look at your figure right now. If I were to fold this graph, it would be exactly the same. Where's another area which you would be able to fold right like halfway and it would be exactly the same? Here, our other line of symmetry would be 0.7 because that we could draw a line right in the middle here and it would be pretty much like divided equally, and if we were to fold it, it would be the exact same thing. So if this is my other line of symmetry, our second one, what would be the rule? Look at the bottom. Our first rule was y is always 0. Another rule would be what? X is always 0.7. Because now x is 0.7 and we can also show that it is symmetrical this way. Not only horizontally, but vertically as well. So this was for problem number 1 and number 2. Go ahead and turn to number 3. Alright, so for this one, guys, it is going to be very different on everyone. And I would not want to confuse you because the answers will vary. But however, I do want to go over letter A. So it's asking, draw a line U whose rule is y is equal to x plus 1/4. So remember, our y is going to be x plus 1/4. So for example, if our x is 0, if our, So for example, if x is here, that means we have to add 1/4. Before we do this, let's just make sure that we filled out our graph, because if not, it's going to be a little bit hard to do. Oh, I made a mistake. It was 1/4, 1 2/4, 1 3/4, and so on. And then over here, the same thing. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 1 1/4, 1 2/4, 1 3/4, and so on. So if our rule is y is equal to x plus 1/4, it would be here. So this is our x plus 1/4. And I'm just going to plot it really quick. If I go to my, I'm going to do my whole numbers because that's what's easier. So 1, I'm going to go to my 1 plus 1/4. 2, I'm going to go to 2 and then plus 1/4, which is right here. This would be our 2 and 1/4. 3, I'm going to go to 3 and then this would be my 1/4 right here. So if you did your rule, your Y rule, this is what it was supposed to look like. Our symmetrical line for this one was diagonally. That was your line of symmetry. Now, it is asking here to construct a figure with a total of 6 points, all on the same side of the line. So, the reason why Ms. Rodriguez does not want to work on it is because everybody could have drawn 6 different points. As long as you did 6 points on this side, and then your line had to be symmetrical on this side. So remember, so if you have 6 points on this side, how many points should you have on this side? Also 6. But then again, everyone's is going to be different. I'm going to go ahead and come back. Alright guys, so again, so that's the only reason why I didn't want to review this one, because I don't want you guys thinking that you got it wrong or that it's not the same, because everyone's answers are going to vary for this problem. But just so you know, tomorrow's test will be about this. So just again, make sure you look at your work. If you have any questions, feel free to text me and I can answer those for you. And I'm more than willing, to help you all if you all have any questions, or if there's something that you didn't understand about the video and you need, better clarification, just go ahead and send me a message through Teams, and I am available and I can go ahead and respond. Other than that, thank you for watching this video. Next week, we will continue with lessons 19 and lessons 20. All right? Thank you, guys. Have a great one.